was like, Mom, I don't know what's going on with my body. I got to get myself together. And he said, I don't feel like myself anymore.
It's a diagnosis impacting too many football players. The latest being a Bronco great.
He suffered from CTE stage 2.
Tonight, we have a discussion about CTE, from what it is.
It is a documented phenomenon over the past probably 2 decades where there is a progressive degeneration of the brain.
To the hidden struggles some of our favorite players are experiencing.
What's so scary about CTE is that we don't know we have it until we're dead.
A terrifying incident caught on camera in the metro. We have the latest update from police after they shot a man who charged them this afternoon.
Plus, it's city versus state over a newly implemented law.
It's the principle of home rule and guarding that principle that's written into the Constitution.
The state says it will save you money. Cities say it comes at their expense.
We begin tonight at 6 with this live look from our CDOT camera along I-70 through Glenwood Canyon. I-70 in this area just reopened within the past hour. Storms are moving through much of the high country, bringing flash flood watches and warnings along with them. Thank you for joining us for Denver 7 News at 6. I'm Jessica Porter.
Good evening. I'm Ann Trujillo. And parts of Highway 125 in Grand County remain closed tonight because of a mudslide north of Granby. This is in the area where the East Troublesome fire burned 2 years ago.
We want to get right over to Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson and our Denver 7 forecast.
It's been a very busy afternoon of thunderstorm activity. Fortunately, all the flash flood warnings in the mountain areas on those burn scars have been lifted. You can see the radar looking a little less wet out in the Glenwood Canyon area on Glenwood Springs. We're seeing the same situation farther to the north, and that continues up around the Cameron Peak fire and the Grizzly, or the East Troublesome fire. These thunderstorms are going to continue to push slowly off to the north and east, and as they do, they're weakening as the storms begin to fall apart. We expect that trend to continue throughout the evening hours. Now, we did have some heavy weather out on the northeast plains, even a tornado warning up near Crook, Colorado, up to the in Logan County. That's all moved up into the Sidney, Nebraska area and beyond. So no warnings currently in effect for the state. But let me show you what the rain has done as far as the temperatures are concerned. We have cooled off dramatically just into the mid-70s here while it's near 100 out at Burlington. More rain's coming up for tomorrow, and with that, cooler temperatures. More areas of locally heavy rain and possible flash flooding, though, will also come back tomorrow.
All right, thank you. High school athletes across our state are gearing up for summer football practices to start within the next month.
Tonight, we're focused on their safety on the field and the impact it could have later in life.
And this comes in light of news today that Demarius Thomas had stage 2 CTE. Boston University doctors posthumously diagnosed Thomas, though it's unclear what role CTE played in his death back in December. Take a listen to how the executive director of the Concussion Legacy Foundation describes CTE.
Well, CTE is a brain disease that's similar to Alzheimer's disease in a lot of ways, that eventually will cause dementia. But with CTE, it's starting when you're a teenager in your 20s and you're getting hit in the head playing sports like football or soccer or rugby. And then it continues to progress after you stop getting hit in the head, sort of like a crack in a windshield that keeps spreading.
Denver 7's Colette Bordelon spoke with a former Broncos player today about the dangers of CTE and what he thinks needs to be done to protect more players.
One hit after another.
It's like a firecracker exploding in your head.
On a field where it's part of the job.
The whole point of football is how much punishment can you take?
Nate Jackson spent most of his NFL career with the Broncos and says it doesn't matter how hard you get hit.
That's what makes you a hero, but that's also what's killing your brain.
He didn't play with Demarius Thomas, but unfortunately wasn't surprised to learn DT had CTE.
What's so scary about CTE is that we don't know we have it until we're dead.
Doctors don't fully understand CTE yet, but say it can have different causes, like repetitive hits to the head. And there's no direct correlation between concussions and CTE. Symptoms can be behavioral issues or changes in someone's mood, like increased anxiety.
A lot of my friends who are struggling, it's hard to tell why.
Even though Jackson says he wanted to start the sport young, his parents didn't let him.
Little kids don't need to be cracking skulls like that.
It certainly could be. It could be genetics, it could be environment, it could be behavior.
David Howell studies the impacts of concussions on children and doesn't believe football in and of itself is the ultimate problem causing CTE later in life.
We can identify or diagnose depression, anxiety, those types of things. And by doing that, then we can help at least alleviate those symptoms.
It's an important topic.
But Jackson wants to see something done before that happens, saying too often players feel like they need to hide their symptoms of a head injury.
I'll get put in this kind of political process. Someone else is going to replace me. And if he plays better than I do, I'll never see the field again.
He knows there's research being done on helmet technology, but would rather see players treated as more than their jersey.
When the lights go off and the adrenaline dies down, there are real consequences to what they're doing out there. And
saying it's a way to honor DT. Colette Bordelon, Denver 7.
And this morning on Good Morning America, Demaryius Thomas's parents spoke for the very first time since his death last year. They say they saw their son struggling in the year leading up to his death.
He was paranoid like all the time, but memory loss, I saw that as well. Every single day he complained about having a headache.
His mood would change, and he would also isolate himself sometimes. He was like, "Mom, I don't know what's going on with my body. You know, I got to get myself together." And he said, "I don't feel like myself anymore."
He was seeking medical help. Not sure if the medical help he was seeking was helping him, which from my understanding right now, what I've learned, it wasn't helping him.
What answers did the CTE diagnosis give you, Bobby?
When they started explaining side effects, warning signs, and that's when the bell started ringing. When they said it, I was like, man, he was doing that. He did that too. And fought it myself because I said I know I could have done more.
Broncos Insider Troy Rank has an article explaining this posthumous diagnosis and the impact Demaryius Thomas left on the Broncos organization. You can read that right now on thedenverchannel.com.
Aurora police say the man they shot and killed at a motel earlier this afternoon was on parole for a murder conviction. Now, our cameras captured the shooting at the Ranger Motel on East Colfax, and we've decided to pause the video before shots are fired, and we are blurring the man's face until he's been identified. In the video, you can see the man peeking out of the motel door several times, and then minutes later, he starts running toward police with what appears to be two long objects in his hands, and that is when police opened fire. Aurora Fire first reported a fire at that motel around 11 this morning, and then an hour later, it had turned into a barricade situation. The critical response team is handling the investigation.
Boulder County residents will have a chance to weigh in next month on 5 proposed gun control ordinances. Today, county commissioners introduced the ordinances and agreed to a public hearing on August 2nd. The new ordinances include a ban on the sale of assault weapons, raising the age limit for buying a gun to 21 years old, and implementing a waiting period for purchasing a gun. During today's meeting, commissioners didn't have much discussion, instead leaving in-depth consideration for next month's hearing.
5 cities have announced they are suing the state and Governor Polis over a new law that's set to kick in next month. The cities argued that the law, which was passed by the state legislature this year, will put the future of home rule cities in Colorado in jeopardy. Here is Denver 7 Politico reporter Megan Lopez.
In communities across Colorado, the sounds of construction are everywhere. It's not just new apartments or homes being built, but also new schools. Between inflation and supply chain disruptions, the cost of construction isn't cheap. So this year, state legislators passed a new law to limit some taxes.
We just feel like it's appropriate for the betterment of the entire state.
House Bill 1024 is set to go in effect in August. It says home rule cities cannot charge a sales and use tax on school construction materials.
And we really felt like this was urgent because Colorado faces a huge backlog in school construction around the state.
And supporters say cities shouldn't be trying to make money from building schools. Of Colorado's 272 municipalities, 104 are home rule.
69 of them self-collect their sales taxes. Home rule municipalities that self-collect find that they are collecting more of the taxes that are due than if the state does it.
Of those, 5 have a sales tax on school construction materials. Denver, Boulder, Commerce City, Pueblo, and Westminster. Those cities are now suing the state over this new law.
This challenge to an unconstitutional piece of legislation adopted by the General Assembly and signed by the governor is a great test of that home rule authority.
It's really not a question of the money.
Commerce City manager Roger Tinklenberg says this will undermine the concept of home rule, which gives cities the right to self-govern on matters of local concern.
It's the principle of home rule and guarding that principle that's written into the Constitution.
Under this new law, Commerce City stands to lose around $600,000 a year, money it puts right back into the community.
It can range from upgrading playground, ball fields, upgrading a gymnasium, that type of thing, where there's beneficial use to both the community and the the school district students.
That's great, but most municipalities are not doing that. And so what happens is the state ends up overpaying, using tax money to pay taxes.
The state says this should be under its purview. Cities say this is a slippery slope. Ultimately, though, a court will decide who has the final say over these taxes. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
All right, so Megan told you what Commerce City stands to lose. Denver could see $2 to $3 million in losses annually. Pueblo could see $3 to $4 million in lost tax revenue. The cities have asked for an expedited ruling on the matter since the law is set to kick in August 10th.
It's a really challenging situation right now for us. Lives depend on this truck.
A Colorado nonprofit just wants to get back to helping people with disabilities.
We serve people with disabilities through therapeutic horseback riding.
Our Denver 7 Gives viewers are helping them focus on that mission.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. This is huge. Thank you.
Still a lot of action on the radar. We'll have even more thunderstorms coming up tomorrow and Thursday.